addictions other than what we've talked about up to this point, uppers, downers, all arounders. Now we're going to talk about the other addictions that are out there. So let's go ahead and get started. There we go. Other addictions, other drugs. Other drugs, inhalants, volatile liquids, aerosol sprays, gases that come in pressurized tanks. These substances have many of the same psychoactive effects of street drugs. Sports drugs, natural and synthetic substances, they accelerate the healing of injuries, they increase performance, they alter the state of the athlete's consciousness. Hard to classify drugs, animal extracts, herbal preparations, smart drugs and drinks, nootropics. They've been used for their psychoactive effects. They've been used to improve mental health. They've been used to improve physical health. Nootropics. Inhalants are used because the user finds it stupefying, intoxicating, occasionally psychedelic. There are three main groups of inhalants: volatile solvents and aerosols, volatile nitrites, and anesthetics. Most of the volatile solvents and aerosols are synthesized from petroleum and mixed with other chemicals. Hydrocarbons are found in glues, gasoline, and nail polish remover. Many aerosols are inhaled for their propellants rather than their ascribed contents. Other volatile organic compounds include esters, ketones, alcohols, and glycols. The volatile nitrites include butyl and amyl nitrites. These drugs are used as vasodilators for people with heart problems. They've also been used in air fresheners. Illicitly, they are used recreationally at parties, but especially in sexual situations. And I'll explain that in just a moment. Anesthetics are used to block pain or induce unconsciousness for medical procedures. Nitrous oxide is used in dentistry for anxious patients who do not wish to use Novocaine. They're also called laughing gas. It is not uncommonly used at parties to induce giddiness and euphoria, and that's what these young ladies are doing. The most widely used inhalants are nitrous oxide, nitrites, gasoline, glue, spray paint, aerosol sprays, lacquer thinner, and correction fluid. Inhalants are sought because they are quick acting with intense effects. They enter the bloodstream within 7 to 10 seconds and may last from a few minutes to an hour. They are cheap, readily available, and widespread. There are more than 1,500 chemical products that can be inhaled for their psychoactive effects. They are readily accessible to children and adolescents, as many exist in any garage or home. They have more direct toxic effects on body tissue. There is a lack of awareness of inhalants as drug problems. Inhalants abuse is most prevalent among adolescents. Inhalants account for from 700 to 1,200 deaths in the United States every year. This is a worldwide problem as cheap highs are sought by the young, the poor, street children, recent migrants to cities, indigenous peoples, children of parents who work at home with volatile chemicals. The inhalant of choice in many poor countries is gasoline because it is available. Inhalants are most likely abused by 12 to 17-year-olds and more females than males. This problem was especially serious in the 1990s, but has since dissipated. American Indian and white adolescents are more likely to use inhalants than blacks or Asians. There are 7 methods of using: sniffing, breathing in the inhalant through the nose directly from the container; huffing, soaking material and putting the material over the mouth and nose; bagging, soaking material and placing the material in a bag to be inhaled through the nose or mouth; spraying the inhalant directly into the nose or mouth; balloons and crackers, puncturing a can of inhalant and capturing it in a balloon for inhaling; masking, spraying an aerosol in a bag and then putting the bag over the head. And you can also put it on your clothing. And I'll tell you, if you've been using inhalants, it's pretty obvious to people in the emergency room because your clothes reek of it. Volatile solvents are carbon and hydrocarbon-based compounds that turn to gas at room temperature. Gasoline, gasoline additives, paints, especially metallic paints, kerosene, air dusters, paint thinners, lacquers, nail polish remover, spot removers, glues, and plastic cements, and lighter fluid. Volatile solvents are absorbed very rapidly into the blood and move to the heart, brain, and liver within 7 to 10 seconds. Temporary stimulation, it causes temporary stimulation, elevated mood, reduced inhibitions, impulsiveness, excitement, irritability, dizziness, slurred speech, unsteady gait, and drowsiness. These inhalants are exhaled by the lungs and excreted by the kidneys. After prolonged inhalation, the user may experience delirium with confusion, psychomotor clumsiness, emotional instability, impaired thinking, or coma. Long-term effects of inhalant use, arrhythmias and myocarditis, pulmonary hypertension, respiratory distress, and lowered breathing capacity, liver toxicity. Carboxyhemoglobin may cause brain damage. Some inhalants may cause neonatal growth retardation, odd facial features, and tremors in the newborn. Carboxyhemoglobin is where you have other hemoglobins. Oxygen it doesn't attach itself to hemoglobin the easiest. If it's a carbon attached to another, if it's an oxygen attached to another carbon, that actually has a stronger attachment for hemoglobin. Carbon monoxide, for example, has a 27 times greater affinity for hemoglobin than does oxygen. Oxygen is 2 molecules of oxygen, but one molecule of oxygen with molecules of carbon have a stronger affinity for hemoglobin. While most huffers move on to the other drugs, those who stay with inhalants can expect some fairly debilitating effects: poor coordination characteristics, inability to concentrate, weakness, disorientation, weight loss, memory loss due to hippocampal interference, poor problem solving, difficulty controlling one's behavior, blood irregularities, and chromosomal damage. Chronic huffers tend to have antisocial personality disorder, but it is not sure whether the huffing causes the behavior or the environment that they allow themselves to be in. These individuals also tend to use whatever drugs they come across. The most widely abused substance is toluene, it's also known as methylbenzene, because it is such a good accelerant and is in so many products. It's in glue, drying agents, solvents, thinners, paints, inks, and cleaning agents. 65% of chronic abusers of toluene have neurological damage. 65%. There you go. That's how you do it. Trichloroethylene, also known as TCE, is another common solvent found in substances used for huffing. It's in correction fluid, paints, metal degreasers, spot removers, extracting oils and fats from vegetables. It causes depression and moderate hallucinations. If used heavily, it can cause neuropathy. Some of these neuropathies can be permanent. There you go. N-hexene and methylbutyl ketone, also known as MBK, are solvents used for glues, solvents used for adhesives, diluents for plastics, diluents for rubber, in the production of laminated products, as a paint thinner, as a solvent for dyes. N-hexane and MBK have been shown to cause neurological damage, especially in the brain. Recovery can take up to 3 years. Small molecule alkanes are gaseous at room temperature and cause cardiac arrhythmias and sudden death, and include methane, ethane, butane, and propane. Large molecule alkanes are also neurotoxic and include hexane and pentane. Gasoline is readily available and used as an inhalant, especially on American Indian reservations. The effect only lasts for 3 to 5 minutes. Not only are the hydrocarbons neurotoxic, but the solvents, metals, and additives can cause problems as well. It can cause insomnia, tremors, anorexia, paralysis, and lead poisoning if there's lead in your gasoline. Uh, it can get into your brain, your liver, your bone marrow, your kidneys, and it can do lung damage. Residual effect might last for 5 to 6 hours. Over half of all inhalant deaths are due to gasoline inhaling. Alcohols are the most frequently abused inhalant solvents. Methanol, ethanol, and isopropanol. When inhaled, alcohols can produce a mild high along with nausea, vertigo, weakness, vomiting, headaches, and abdominal cramping. For ER personnel, it is important to know the warning signs of solvent abuse: headaches, chemical odor on the body or clothes, red, glassy, or watery eyes with dilated pupils, nosebleeds, inflamed nose, rashes around nose or mouth, slow, thick, or slurred speech, staggering gait, disorientation, lack of coordination, pains in the chest and stomach, fatigue, nausea, shortness of breath, loss of appetite, intoxication, irritability and aggression, seizure, and coma. Nitrites have been used as medicines, especially heart stimulators, angina, since the 19th century. Alkyl nitrite, isomyl nitrite, butyl nitrite, isobutyl nitrite, isopropyl nitrite, cyclohexyl nitrite. These are all the nitrites. Nitrites dilate blood vessels so that organs can receive more blood. This is usually done for the heart during angina attacks or with cyanide poisoning. It takes 7 to 10 seconds for the effects to take place and lasts for 60 to 70 seconds. The blood pressure lowers and hits its apogee at 30 seconds and returns to normal at 90 seconds. Nitrites are sometimes called poppers. Nitrites cause a feeling of fullness in the head, a rush, mild euphoria, dizziness, and giddiness. As the inhalant burns off, they might experience headache, nausea, vomiting, and chills. Excessive abuse may cause oxygen deprivation, fainting or passing out, temporary asphyxiation. Overdoses do occur and necessitate taking the victim away from the nitrite. CPR might be necessary to maintain heart rhythm and respiration. Chronic users will have a reduced oxygen carrying capacity due to methahemoglobinemia. Nitrites are used to enhance sexual activity by increasing blood flow to sexual parts and relaxation of smooth muscles. This is especially necessary when the anal sphincter requires relaxation during anal intercourse. Unfortunately, nitrites impair the immune system by inhibiting the functioning of white cells. Nitrites also convert to nitrosamines, which are cancer-causing chemicals. Poppers, when used with Viagra, cause lowered blood pressure in users since both medications lower the blood pressure. When these two drugs are used with methamphetamine, people have been known to faint or even die. Volatile nitrite abusers are notorious for multiple drug use. 2/3 use at least 3 other inhalants. 1/3 abuse alcohol. 1/3 abuse drugs other than inhalants. Anesthetics are used to slow the central nervous system and stop pain from reaching the brain. Anesthetics also cause euphoric effects when abused. One of the first anesthetics to be abused was nitrous oxide. Recently, nitrous oxide has been abused along with ecstasy to accelerate the rush and to enhance the effects. Nitrous oxide is solid in small plastic containers to be used in cooking. There you go. Nitrous oxide's effects include dizziness, giddiness, and disorientation, silly laughter, buzzing and throbbing in the ears, visual hallucinations, confusion and headache, feeling that one is about to pass out, impaired motor skills, and fainting. The effects only last for 2 to 3 minutes. Cognitive functioning is impaired with the drug, but returns to normal after about 5 minutes. Long-term exposure can cause peripheral and central nerve cell damage due to a lack of oxygen. Nitrous oxide replaces oxygen in the blood. Long-term exposure will lead to loss of balance, loss of dexterity, overall weakness, numbness in the arms and legs, cardiac arrhythmias, asphyxia, seizures, and potentially death. Let his head float for a while. There we go. Halothane is rarely used in the West. It is widely used in the third world countries because it is inexpensive and works very rapidly. This anesthetic is used primarily in veterinary procedures. It is most frequently abused by hospital personnel. Inhalants cause less physical and psychological dependence than other depressants. Inhalants cause cognitive impairments that hinder comprehension and recovery. Inhalants will sometimes cause a cross-tolerance to other depressants, especially alcohol, if used chronically. Inhalants are seen as low class among the drug-using community. 3 categories of drugs are used in sports: therapeutic drugs used for specific medical problems and administered through proper medical supervision. These include analgesics, muscle relaxants, anti-inflammatories, and asthma medication. Another category of drug is ergogenic drugs. These are performance-enhancing drugs. They include steroids, human growth hormone, blood doping, and stimulants. And then the last, of course, is recreational and mood-altering drugs that are used for relaxation. Athletes use drugs because they perceive drugs as a quick way to put on pounds and muscle, to increase stamina, to get up for a game, to relieve pain, to keep up with other athletes who use drugs. Analgesics and anesthetics are used to deaden pain and include both topical and oral drugs. Topical anesthetics include the alcohols, ethanol and methanol, procaine and lidocaine. The oral anesthetics include aspirin, ibuprofen, acetaminophen, hydrocodone, also known as Vicodin, meperidine, also known as Demerol, morphine, codeine, and propoxyphene, also known as Darvon. The biggest problem with analgesics and anesthetics is that they take away the pain without repairing the damage, and sometimes you can do more damage because you don't feel the pain. Muscle relaxants are drugs that depress the neural activity within skeletal muscles and are used to treat muscle strains, ligament strains, muscle spasms, tremors, or shaking. Carisoprodol, also known as Soma and Vanadom, methocarbamol, also known as Robaxin, the benzodiazepines, diazepam, which is Valium, clonazepam, which is also known as Klonopin, and chlordiazepoxide, also known as Librium. Librium and Valium were really popular during the Vietnam War for wives of people that were overseas, strangely enough. Anti-inflammatory drugs lessen pain as well as control inflammation. These drugs come in 2 classes: non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, and that includes aspirin, ibuprofen, indomethacin, indocin, phenylbutazone, which is also known as butazolidine, Solindac, Clinorol, and celecoxib, also known as Celebrex. The corticosteroids include prednisone and cortisone. There's some Celebrex right there. Both types of anti-inflammatories have their problems. NSAIDs, aspirin, and ibuprofen cause ulcers and kidney problems. Celebrex is only recommended for arthritis and may cause heart and gastrointestinal problems. Corticosteroids can cause water retention, bone thinning, muscle and tendon weakness, delayed skin healing, vertigo, headaches, glaucoma, psychosis at high doses. Corticosteroids. Asthma medication air passages. 10% of the general population has asthma. Asthma is often aggravated by heavy exercise and stress. Exercise-induced asthma occurs in 11 to 23% of athletes. Most asthma medications used by athletes are beta 2 agonists, clenbuterol, which is banned for people in competition, and albuterol. These medications increase muscle energy and growth, and so a lot of people claim to be asthmatic who are not. Ergogenic drugs include anabolic steroids, stimulants, human growth hormone, pre-steroids, beta blockers, erythropoietin. Ergogenic techniques include blood doping, soda doping, herbal medicines, and weight loss. Anabolic steroids are synthetic androgens and are used for muscle building and muscle repair. These drugs are used routinely in medicine to treat testosterone insufficiency, delayed puberty, wasting diseases, osteoporosis, certain types of anemia, some breast cancers, and endometriosis. When athletes take steroids, they experience increased body weight, lean muscle mass, muscular strength, stamina, aggressiveness, and confidence. Athletes taking anabolic steroids will take 20 to 200 times the prescribed daily dosage, and that's what they turn out to look like, and that, and this. That's what they look like. Anabolic steroid users will use the drugs in from 4 to 18-week cycles. This is done to give the body a chance to recover from the drug use or to escape detection of use. Cycling steroids usually involves using more than one kind of drug. 82% of cyclers cycle 3 or more different steroids at a time. 30% use 7 or more steroids. Immediate effects of steroid use is increased muscle mass and improved muscle tone. Having muscle too large and strong for the bone and tendon structure may cause an overstressing of the muscle, ruptured tendons, and damaged ligaments. Users often complain of feeling bloated because they are retaining water. That's why your muscles look so big, because there's so much water in them. Anabolic steroids suppress the natural production of testosterone. These people have problems with enlarged breasts. It changes your nipples. It actually shrinks them. Decreased size of the sexual organs, impaired sexual function, cystic acne growth. That's what we're seeing in this picture right here. Thinning hair and more rapid balding. So one of the things that you see in people who are taking steroids is acne and bald-headedness. There you go. I'm not seeing the acne on him, but he sure is massive. I'm guessing he's on steroids. Female athletes also use anabolic steroids for muscle growth and other masculinizing effects, though some are unwanted. They have increased facial hair, decreased breast size, lowered voice, clitoral enlargement, cystic acne growth, and thinning hair. Most of these masculinizing effects are irreversible. There you go. 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 Anabolic steroids increase the cholesterol of the user, especially the bad cholesterol, the LDL. At the same time, steroids lower the good cholesterol, or HDL. Steroid users have an uncommon amount of cardiovascular problems, hypertension, thrombosis, cardiomyopathy. Because steroids encourage cell growth, they may equally encourage cancer cell growth. That's a problem. Anabolic steroids do have an impact on the user's mental state, at first supporting more aggressive and confident behavior. As use continues, confidence swings to aggressiveness, to emotional instability, to rage, to hypomania, to depression, to psychotic symptoms, to paranoia. This emotional cycling is known as roid rage. and is more pronounced in individuals who have anger issues before they start taking steroids. While some people report a slight euphoria when taking anabolic steroids, it is thought by researchers that this is due to anticipation of intense activity rather than actual addiction. Some users do report withdrawal symptoms, and in fact, some users will use low doses during cycling to maintain sanity. There is some animal study evidence that steroid use is addictive. Stimulants are taken by athletes to make them more alert, to make them feel more confident, and to make them stronger. Much of the increase in ability when taking amphetamines is increased focus and aggressiveness. Heavy usage can lead to blood pressure problems, exhaustion, and malnutrition. Caffeine is a mild stimulant used by some athletes. At low doses, it increases your wakefulness, your mental alertness, slightly increases your endurance, muscle contraction, digestive disturbances, urine output causing dehydration. Ephedra, also known as mahuang, and ephedrine are mild stimulants used by some athletes. These substances were found in many over-the-counter medicines. Not everyone is sensitive to these medications, but to those who are, they cause jitteriness, anxiety, headaches, high blood pressure, cardiac arrhythmia, poor digestion, and overheating. This picture on the right is of Steve Beckler. This is just before he collapsed and died. An autopsy found that he had ephedra poisoning. This was in 2003. He's an Oriole pitcher, and he died in spring training. Chewing tobacco used to be a mainstay in Major League Baseball parks from the beginning of baseball until into the 1980s. Many, if not most, baseball players maintained a chaw of tobacco in their cheeks almost constantly during a game. Many baseball icons of the past died of throat or esophageal cancer. It is rarely seen today. And there are two. That's Pablo Sandoval. He's not in baseball anymore. This is Nellie Fox. He died of throat cancer. He was a Hall of Fame second baseman, I think. Yeah, second baseman for the Chicago White Sox. Human growth hormone is a hormone produced by the pituitary gland to stimulate growth in children. It is prescribed for children who are of unusually small stature to stimulate growth, and for people with wasting diseases like AIDS to build strength. It is used by athletes because it increases your muscle mass, your skin thickness, your connective tissue, and your muscles, acromegaly, cardiovascular disease, decreased sexual desire, goiter, menstrual disorders and impotence, and it decreases lifespan up to 20 years. This is Ryan Braun of the Brewers. The year after he won the MVP of the National League, he was banned for half the season for the use of human growth hormone. He has since retired. And that's what acromegaly looks like. You can see the thickened jaw. That's acromegaly. People with acromegaly tend to have damage done to their hearts due to whatever it is that's causing the acromegaly. Androstenedione, also known as andro, and dihydroepiandrosterone, DHEA, are natural hormone precursors to testosterone. Neither of these supplements have been found to do more than increase testosterone levels in men with abnormally low testosterone levels. They also seem to increase HDLs and the female hormone estradiol. I do take DHEA. I've taken it for about 30 years. It is also said to help with stress, especially PTSD. Beta blockers are medications prescribed to lower blood pressure, decrease heart rate, prevent arrhythmias, reduce eye pressure. They work by blocking adrenaline from exciting the heart. They also calm the individual by blocking nerve cells in the brain. Beta blockers are used by athletes who require precision and concentration, like archers, participants in rifle shooting competitions, ski jumpers, and divers. Beta blockers do have their problems as they cause fatigue, lethargy, dangerously low blood pressure, gastritis, occasional nausea, vomiting, temporary impotence, may intensify your asthma, intensifies heart problems that may kill the user. And these are the beta blockers: metoprolol, atenolol, nebivolol, bisoprolol, acetobutylol, beta-zolol, and esmolol. Erythropoietin, also known as EPO, is a medication that is given to individuals to promote red blood cell production. My sister was dying of cancer, and she was having problems with anemia. So anytime her H&H went down below 25, they would give her a shot of erythropoietin, and she'd have her red blood cell count would immediately go up, and she would feel great. It is often given to individuals who are going through chemotherapy to induce their bone marrow to produce replacement RBCs due to their problem, and that was what was going on with my sister. EPO is used by athletes to increase stamina, though this unnatural thickening of the blood can lead to blood clots, which is in turn might lead to strokes or heart attacks. So it's really kind of foolish to use EPO unless you really need it. A similar problem is blood doping, where the athletes store their own blood prior to competition and then are administered the packed RBCs to increase the stamina of the individual. This technique is used in endurance sports such as cycling, long distance running, and cross-country skiing. Seems kind of silly to me. Athletes will use just about any substance that will give them a competitive edge. They'll use herbs, animal extracts, vitamins, minerals, proteins. Unfortunately, some of these items may contain banned chemicals and cause the athlete a great deal of trouble. One dietary supplement used by athletes is creatine. Creatine is an amino acid that occurs naturally in the human body, as well as in fish and meats. Creatine is used because it delays muscle fatigue, it stores energy that can be used in short bursts, it extends the amount of time a person can work out, it helps muscles recover faster. Problems come when it is overused, causes dehydration, stomach cramps, nausea and diarrhea, muscle pulls and strains, and kidney problems. And I am using creatine. My doctor suggested that I do that. I'm 76 years old, and so what I look like. And he decided that it would be, for me to maintain my muscle mass. Most people at my age are losing muscle. Their muscles are atrophying. Well, mine aren't. And one of the reasons is because I am taking creatine. And I've been taking it for about a year. And I don't know that I'm that much bigger, but I'm not any smaller, that's for sure. And they seem to heal faster, and that's kind of nice. Gamma hydrobutyrate, GHB, was used in the 1980s and early 1990s as a fat burner, as an anabolic agent, sleep aid, muscle definer, plant growth supplement, and psychedelic. Picked up by sexual predators as a date rape drug, it is now only used legally as a medication for muscle weakness. There you go, date rape drug. Some athletes will consume sodium bicarbonate 30 minutes prior to exercising to decrease the development of acidosis. This works for shorter events that take place within 10 minutes, but not for longer endurance events. It can cause diarrhea and water retention. Athletes trying to make weight will resort to various techniques to drop unwanted pounds. They'll use diuretics, laxatives, exercise, of course, fasting, self-induced vomiting, excessive sweating in the sauna, and stimulants. Some athletes will use 3 to 5% of their body weight in a couple of days, and that is ridiculously dangerous. And it's one of the things that they have tried to crack down on in wrestling, because people were trying to make weight. They were trying to wrestle, they're one weight, and they always drop a weight class in order to be more competitive. Well, they try to keep them from doing that now. Anorexia and bulimia are not uncommon among athletes who are potentially trying to make unrealistic weight levels. Another problem with weight maintenance is the opposite of anorexia, muscle dysmorphia, where the individual becomes obsessed with muscle development as they see themselves as too weak whenever they look in the mirror. These individuals are more likely to take copious supplements and steroids to combat their body's weaknesses. Athletes will often use diuretics to lose weight rapidly, to limit the bloating caused by steroids, by sucking the water out of their system to avoid detection of illegal drugs, to lose weight to look thinner. Athletes need to monitor their use of diuretics because of the possibility of dehydration leading to heart stroke and organ damage. Weightlifters will take adrenaline supplements combined with amyl or isobutyl nitrite to increase their strength. It unfortunately can cause dizziness, rapid heartbeat, and hypertension. Bee pollen is sometimes taken as a supplement, a way of boosting energy levels, digestion, and reduce stress. Studies do not support any benefits from bee pollen. Some athletes will take calcium pangamate as a supplement. This chemical combination is sometimes referred to as vitamin B15 and pangamic acid. It is reputed to keep muscle tissue better oxygenated, though there is no scientific research to back up the claim. This substance is a known carcinogen. Cyproheptadine periactin is reputed to be a steroid-like bodybuilder and has been used to increase body weight and muscle strength. This drug is an antihistamine. It acts as a serotonin and histamine antagonist and increases muscle mass and strength by making the individual hungry. It actually merely increases the user's appetite and has the added side effects of decreased performance, sweating, and sedation. Darbepoetin aranesp is a medication developed to treat chronic anemia. Just like erythropoietin, the drug increases RBCs, that's red blood cells, and thus the oxygen carrying capacity of the athlete's blood. Human chorionic gonadotropin is the substance produced by fetuses to protect themselves from their mother's immune system. HCG, along with clomiphene and tamoxifen, is taken by steroid users to restart their own body's testosterone production. This substance also blocks the increased effects of estrogen in the male body. The drug can have an impact on the liver and the reproductive system. A lot of times athletes are really screwing up their ability to reproduce. This is a hint and a warning. Some people want to be good athletes because it's sexy, but some of the things that they do to themselves to make themselves good athletes reverse that whole process. Modafinil or Provigil acts as a stimulant and is used to treat narcolepsy. Athletes using the steroid THG will take the drug to mask the steroid. Orethine and arginine are amino acids taken to increase muscle mass because it is reputed that they cause an abnormal release of human growth hormone. Primagen is used in Europe to facilitate the release of steroids in the body. Vitamin B12 is used to ward off illnesses and provide extra energy. It can also be used to speed the recovery from a hangover. I used to work in a rural health clinic in Oklahoma, and my doctor had a hangover cure. He didn't drink, but sometimes people would come in on Monday morning and they'd still have a hangover. And these were friends of his, or these were people that had to go to the bank and be the president or whatever. And he'd give them a hangover shot. And that was a shot of B12 and a shot of B6. One of them is red and the other one is yellow. And he would give them a cc of each one. of each one, and that was his hangover cure, and it seemed to work. It gave him energy anyway, and it, you know, most of it was probably a placebo, but he give him a shot or I had to give him a shot. As has been seen, athletes will do just about anything and take just about anything to improve their performance on the athletic field. Athletes will use stimulants to boost their performance, from innocuous caffeine and tobacco to the more destructive amphetamines. Athletes will use sedative hypnotics, especially Xanax, to unwind from the stresses of competition. Sometimes these drugs are used to counteract the stimulants that they have taken to perform. The most widely used depressant by athletes is alcohol. While in low doses, the substance does not hinder performance. In most cases, alcohol is used as a reward for performance, as a way to unwind, or as a consolation after a disappointment. And I already told you the story of the Canadian softball team that kicked everybody's butt the first day. And after a, a long night, they came in and everybody kicked their butts. Marijuana is contraindicated for performance, though when used in the right mood might actually improve performance. Marijuana doesn't help athletes because it lowers your blood pressure, causing fainting during competition. It inhibits sweating, which might lead to heat prostration during exercise. It decreases your tracking ability. It hinders the ability to do complex tasks. It diminishes hand-eye coordination. It decreases oxygen intake. It is a banned substance by the NCAA. It is illegal in 36 of 50 states. I guess it's legal in 40 of 50 states, I think. Because marijuana is fat soluble, it continues to impair 1 to 2 days after use. I think I told you about the softball tournament. It was a 24-hour tournament, so we played straight through. So it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we played this team that had beaten us before, and evidently they had gone and it was a co-ed tournament, and evidently they had gone and smoked some joints while we were during the night. And we got them at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was dangerous. They had to call the game because one girl got hit in the face because she couldn't get her glove up fast enough. It was terrible. It was terrible, and they couldn't. The pitcher was so stoned that he couldn't come anywhere close. No, it was a girl. It was a young lady. Anyway, she couldn't come anywhere close to the plate, so she was walking everybody, and it was a 3-2 tournament. So she only got one pitch for each player. It was terrible. It was just terrible. The game only lasted for a couple innings, and they called it. They forfeited because they couldn't function. I mean, it was ridiculous. If you hit the ball, they couldn't find it. You know, you go all the way to the fence, and you just get a home run. It was just ridiculous. There are no limits to what people will do to get high. People have been known to smoke aspirin, to chew dandelion roots, to drink gasoline. Individuals have been known to mix gasoline with orange juice to make a barely palatable concoction known as Montana gin. They drink rubbing alcohol, will blind you if you're not careful. They drink hydrogen peroxide. They put anbesol, which is topical anesthetic, in their eye. They will smoke toad secretions. Mortuaries have had to watch their supplies of the fluid they use to embalm bodies, formaldehyde. When inhaled, this substance acts as a depressant and a psychedelic, but can also be used to manufacture illicit drugs. When mixed with marijuana, the substance provides a PCP-like effect and is called clickers, clickums, fry, wet, and illy. Cool. Raid, Lysol, and any hairspray are sometimes used for their alcoholic content. Raid has been used to spray on marijuana to intensify the effects of the marijuana in a concoction known as cannade. Kava is a plant found in the South Pacific and South America. The root is crushed and a milky white exudate is extracted. which is drunk like alcohol. The drink is reputed to have similar effects as alcohol and acts as an anti-anxiety drug. It is said to have an unpleasant flavor and numbs the tongue and lips. Human saliva is used in its preparation. Helps it ferment. In some Arab countries, camels are force-fed marijuana. After going through the digestive process, the camel dung is smoked for its hashish content. The bufo genus of toads, the Colorado river toad, produces a psychedelic substance from its pores as a defense mechanism from attack. The toads are sometimes milked, and the resulting substance is smeared on cigarettes and smoked for their psychedelic effect. All natural medications started out as herbal preparations concocted by shamans, medicine men, wizards, or physicians. Some of these herbs merely had a placebo effect, while others have been proven to contain chemical structures that have great benefits for mankind. For example, quinine developed from the cinchona tree to fight malaria. The search for the fountain of youth, or merely drugs that will help the individual recover from a hard night of drinking, have recently come to the fore as smart drugs, drinks, and nootropics. Smart drugs, drinks, and nootropics are drugs, nutrients, vitamins, extracts, herbal potions such as ginseng, ginkgo biloba, and caffeine, and amino acids. These drugs are reputed to boost intelligence, improve memory, sharpen attention, increase concentration, detoxify the body, energize the user, reverse the aging process. New Age smart drugs or nootropics include hydrogene, selagelene, vasopressin, 5-HT. 5-HT is serotonin, modafinil, pyridoxine, and oxiracetin. Oxiracetin. All these improve learning, improve memory consolidation, improve memory retrieval. At least that's what they say. Compulsive disorders are repetitive behaviors that the individual appears not to have any control over. They come in two categories: impulse control disorders, compulsive gambling, or compulsive hair pulling. Compulsive disorders that have their own classification: overeating, shopping, sexual behavior, internet use, watching television, pathological lying, shoplifting, and fire setting. Impulse control disorders are actions that may be pleasurable in the beginning, but as the attempt to resist the impulse continues, becomes harmful to the individual or to others. This disorder also has accompanying tension or arousal before the act is committed. After culmination of the act, the individual often feels gratification, pleasure, relief, and then possibly remorse and guilt for not controlling the behavior. Obsessive compulsive disorder is a repetitive activity where the goal is to reduce anxiety or distress caused by obsessive thoughts. The goal is rarely to provide pleasure or gratification and include compulsive hand washing, checking things, ordering, counting, and praying. Compulsive behaviors are engaged in for the same reason. People compulsively use addictive drugs because of the instant rush. It makes them forget their problems. It controls their anxiety. It obliges their friends so that they are cool too. It's a form of self-medication. These individuals are trying to alter their mood and change their state of consciousness. MRIs show that the same areas of the brain are activated when compulsive behavior is done as when drug use is anticipated or done. Drug users are compulsive about their drug use. They develop a tolerance for their drug. They have withdrawal symptoms after abstinence. They continue to use despite adverse consequences. They're in denial about their usage. They have a strong tendency to relapse. Similarly, compulsive gamblers gamble compulsively. They increase the bet amount when gambling compulsively. They develop a tolerance. They become restless when not gambling. That's known as withdrawal. They continue gambling until they have used all of their money. And this, of course, is a form of abuse. They think they control their gambling and refuse to see the consequences. They are in denial, and they will relapse whenever they have money again. One telling sign is that the organizations like Gamblers Anonymous and Overeaters Anonymous use a 12-step program identical to the 12-step program set up by Alcoholics Anonymous. Addiction behavior involves a lack of individual control, and these organizations demonstrate the necessity to change their lifestyle and beliefs. Compulsive behavior can be triggered by various factors: genetic predisposition, environmental stress, the repetitive behavior itself. Substance abusers, compulsive gamblers, compulsive overeaters, and compulsive shoppers all show the same dopamine increase in the brain. Compulsive behavior does seem to run in families. Binge overeating has been shown to have a relationship with overactive 5-HT serotonin receptors. Twin studies support the strength of genetic factors leading to obesity. These connections were stronger than shared environmental pressures. Studies of adopted children supported the strength of genetic influences, whereas such environmental factors as frequency and volume of meals, amount of snack food in the house, and level of exercise was less significant than heredity toward obesity. Researchers have found a marker gene that shows a strong proclivity for addictive behavior, especially alcoholism, DRD2A1 allele. And we've talked about the DRD2A1 allele before. It appears in only 19 to 21% of non-alcoholics, 69% of severe alcoholics, 45% of compulsive overeaters, 48% of smokers, 52% of cocaine addicts, 51% of pathological gamblers, 76% of pathological gamblers with drug problems, 45% of people with Tourette syndrome, 49% of children with ADHD. Yet, for non-alcoholics, only 19 to 21%. It is speculated that those individuals who have the DRD2A1 allele gene have a deficiency of dopamine receptor sites and therefore must seek excessive stimulation to force extra dopamine to be released in the reward reinforcement pathway to feel normal. Since their normal is less stimulating, they are bored. Stimulation allows them to feel pleasure. Compulsive gambling may be triggered by the plethora of venues to gamble: state lotteries, poker machines, internet betting, legal off-track betting, casinos on every corner. Compulsive overeating may be triggered by the plethora of fast food restaurants, lack of daily physical activity, fats and sugars in the foods that induce craving, parents overfeeding their children, chaotic childhoods that lead people to use food to relieve their depression. Compulsive sexual activity may be triggered by a plethora of sexual situations depicted on TV, latchkey kids with no supervision, children with no close emotional family connections, an abundance of internet pornography. Compulsive internet use may be triggered by expanding networks of games, massive multiplayer online role-playing games. Dedicated gamers will play online for an average of 8 hours a day. Expanding networks of online gambling, expanding networks of chat rooms. Compulsive shopping may be triggered by the ease of getting credit, a materialistic view of life. It isn't who you are, but what you have. Barrage of advertisements on TV, catalogs, 24-hour home shopping networks, internet shopping, internet auction sites. It has been observed that there is a history of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse in the lives of many of the individuals who suffer from compulsive behaviors. Engaging in the behavior can lead to compulsive behavior. A big payday for gambling. Eater takes an excess sugar and fats and changes the body's chemistry. Now they eat to be happy. Being able to buy something that the individual wants makes them shop with the anticipation that they will find another coveted item. Participation in ritualized masturbation, compulsive viewing of pornography, or participation in other compulsive sexual behavior will make the individual avoid normal sexual behavior or emotional relationships. Compulsive gambling has skyrocketed in the last decade, with poker tournaments being shown on television and online gambling available. Last year, gambling revenues in the United States topped $75 billion. Last year, gambling revenues worldwide topped $125 billion. Gamblers Anonymous defines gambling as any betting or wagering for self or others, whether for money or not, no matter how slight or insignificant, whether the outcome is uncertain or depends upon chance or skill, constitutes gambling. Forms of gambling: casino-style gambling, poker, blackjack, craps, roulette, slot machines, video poker machines, horse and dog racing, highlight, bingo and raffles, state-run lotteries and keno, sports betting, both legal and illegal, Super Bowl, office pools, and betting on golf, schoolyard games such as lag pennies and flip coins, bar games, liar's dice, stock speculation such as day trading, commodities and options, and internet gambling. Gambling has been around since the dawn of man. Gambling bones have been found in human habitation sites that date back 40,000 years. And this includes indigenous peoples in North America. This was not an old world phenomenon. Mayan digs have found gambling implements that closely resemble the dice and bones of other civilizations. Along with gambling has come attempts at prohibition. India tried to prohibit it in 1000 BC. During the Roman Empire, it was only for the aristocracy. Louis IX of France tried to ban it in 1255. Henry VIII of England tried to ban it as well. During the Victorian era in the United States, of course, that is why we had no gambling until Las Vegas. Gambling came to the United States with the British, but the corruption and the addictive behavior made the practice unpalatable, and it was banned. While it was banned in the East, as people moved across the Mississippi River, gambling was popular in the Wild West. Infected by the same corruption and Victorian morality, by 1910, it again was gone. Gambling didn't return until the 1970s. Since then, Atlantic City and Las Vegas have become gambling meccas, and Indian casinos have changed gambling attitudes, bringing in more money than the cities combined. 48 states have some form of gambling. The only two that don't are Utah and Hawaii. And that's because of their large Mormon populations in both those states. Compulsive gambling, like any other addiction, comes in two forms: problem gambling, gambling behavior that causes problems in an individual's life, either psychologically, physically, sociologically, or vocationally. Pathological gambling, gambling behavior that is persistent and continual and significantly disrupts all aspects of an individual's life. The real difference between problem and pathological gamblers is often time and money. Problem gamblers can't afford to spend as much time and don't have the money to gamble as they want. They average losses of only $3,000 per year. A pathological gambler spends far more time gambling and averages losses of $11,000 a year. The average debt for women entering Gamblers Anonymous is $60,000. The average debt for men entering Gamblers Anonymous is $100,000. Studies show that problem and pathological gamblers lose 10 to 20 times as much as non-problem gamblers. In a study in Connecticut, 47% of the casino patrons were problem or pathological gamblers, even though they only comprise 5% of the population. In Minnesota in 1993, it was discovered that 2% of the population generated 63% of the state gambling revenues. Harvard Medical School studies estimated that 125 million people in the United States gamble. 2,200,000 of these individuals are pathological gamblers. 5,300,000 of these individuals are problem gamblers. This didn't take into account the 1,100,000 adolescent pathological gamblers. Male compulsive gamblers outnumber female compulsive gamblers by 2 to 3 times. This may be changing from the increase of casinos and slot machines, as women are more likely to use gambling to escape depression, trauma, or relationship problems. Pathological gamblers tend to have other addictions. 25 to 63% of pathological gamblers have other behavioral or substance addictions. One study found that 73% of pathological gamblers had alcohol problems. The same study found that 38% of pathological gamblers had a drug problem. 60% smoked, 50% had mood disorders, 41% had anxiety disorders, 60% had personality disorders. The group that has seen the greatest rise of gambling is among older adults. One survey of residential and assisted care facilities found that 16% went to casinos at least once a month. This behavior is exacerbated by casino-sponsored trips and day trips, which were found in two-thirds of the facilities for the elderly, like nursing homes. If they can move, they'll take them to the casino. College students gamble at a higher percentage than any other group. 42% gamble, 26% gamble weekly or more frequently. Heavy college gamblers were more likely to be smokers, heavy drinkers, and or heavy marijuana users. These individuals average lower grades and more frequent absences. There are different types of gamblers. Recreational social gamblers are able to separate gambling from the rest of their lives. For professional gamblers, their main source of income is gambling, and because of this, they are able and willing to take losses in their businesses. Antisocial gamblers may steal to gamble and to have no conscience about the thievery and corruption that they represent. There are two subtypes of pathological and problem gamblers. Action-seeking gamblers are frenetic, excited, and are always seeking to escape. Escape-seeking gamblers are drawn to gambling machines and are often responsible people with good jobs, but they begin gambling to escape from their emotions or just to escape boredom. The symptoms of persistent, recurrent pathological gambling, preoccupation with gambling, reliving past gambling experiences, planning future gambling. Increasing the amount of money used in gambling, unsuccessful attempts at stopping or curbing gambling, restlessness and irritability when not gambling, using gambling as an escape, chasing, trying to recoup past losses, lying about gambling, financing gambling through illegal acts, jeopardizing jobs, relationships, and education to gamble, expecting others to bail out the gambler's debt. Winning phase: in the beginning of the bets are small and they are happy just to win or break even, but as recreation becomes compulsion, the reward becomes more the stimulation of the action, and they seek to prolong the action as long as they possibly can. Winning becomes secondary to staying in the game. In 70 to 80% of the cases with compulsive gamblers, the beginning to their craving for gambling started with a big win. The gambler begins spending more time wagering, and their conversations are salted with lionizing their wins and, when mentioned, minimizing their losses. And I've seen this over and over again. I had a student one time that said she never lost, and I said, "That's amazing." She said she never leaves the casino without money. And I said, "I don't believe it." And she swore that she did. She swore that she did. And just before she graduated, she admitted to me that she always lost all of her money when she went to the casino. And what happened was she got all of her money from graduation. All these people gave her money, all of her relatives. And she went to the casino and lost every penny. Lost every penny. Losing phase. The losing phase begins with a losing streak, which is inevitable due to the simple laws of chance. Their large losses are met with larger wages to try to recoup their previous losses. This is known as chasing. As the gambler continues to lose, they will dip into depression. They will seek isolation, become irritable, and lie about their situation. The desperation phase, the pathological gambler may lose their job, they may max out their credit cards, borrow money from friends and family, perhaps turn to illegal activities to hide their addiction. They may steal, they may embezzle, they may start dealing drugs. The gambler may bankrupt their family and suffer divorce. Giving up phase. In the giving up phase, the gambler is no longer trying to recoup their losses, but seeks the game to stay in the action. 72% of gamblers experience depression when they hit bottom. Suicide attempts occurred in 17 to 24% of these gamblers when bottom was hit. This is usually the time when the gambler seeks treatment. For the compulsive gambler, it isn't the money that they are seeking, but the rush from a large win and the zoning out of the that gambling affords them. About one-third of compulsive gamblers recover on their own, usually triggered by devastating financial losses. For the other two-thirds who seek treatment, the techniques used include antidepressant therapy, anti-craving drugs such as naltrexone, and Gamblers Anonymous. Compulsive shoppers and hoarders have the same cravings as do gamblers and drug addicts, but in this, the high is caused by the feeling they get when they purchase an item. 74% of the time, compulsive buyers purchase items on impulse. 50% of the household incomes for these compulsive shoppers goes to paying their shopping debts. Compulsive shoppers tend to buy items that enhance their sense of uniqueness. Women will buy jewelry, clothes, and cosmetics. Men will buy high-tech electronics and sporting equipment. Depression seems to be the main impetus behind their compulsive shopping. It seems worse during the winter holidays, so this is the time when they accrue 40% of their debt. Antidepressants reduce their urge to compulsive shop. Collecting, accumulating, and hoarding are offshoots of compulsive shopping. The individuals gain self-worth and self-esteem from the objects that they own. These collectors and hoarders may buy valuable items, contemporary fads, or accumulate valueless items. There are cases of people who are unable to throw newspapers and magazines away. People will also hoard animals, cats, dogs, and birds. We had a case in Montana where there was an individual that hoarded goats, and he had goats on his property, and then he died, and nobody fed the goats. So I won't tell you what happened then. Nobody found him until later. There was a case in Alaska where the lady hoarded collies. She said she was trying to breed out some problem that the collies had, and she had a couple hundred collies. So she decided to move to Colorado, or was it Arizona? She was moving to Arizona, and when she came across the border, she was in a semi, and she had all these dogs in the semi in cages, and they found them, and some of them were, it was a mess. It was really a mess. So they seized all these animals for animal cruelty, and eventually they gave them all away, which was kind of interesting. They kept them at the Montana State Fairgrounds in Helena. Or was it in Billings? Anyway, they saved all the dogs. They only let her have 2 dogs, and they weren't collies. That's weird as that is. So there's a lot of collies in Montana because of this lady that was hoarding them. In 1980, 15% of the adult population in the United States were considered obese. By 2005, 33% of the adult U.S. population were considered obese. Tragically, only 33% of the adult population are of normal weight. The average weight of the U.S. female the average height of the U.S. female is 5'4", with a weight of 164 pounds. The average model in the United States is 5'9", with a weight of 110 pounds. This is the actual average of what women look like. This is what the models look like. They don't look anything the same. Same thing. This lady is 164 pounds, 5'4". This lady's taller. Look how skinny her legs are. 164 pounds. 110 pounds. There are three eating disorders: anorexia nervosa, body image distortion, and an addiction to lose weight. Bulimia nervosa, eating excessive amounts of food and then controlling weight by purging, vomiting, fasting, or excessive exercise. And then binge eating disorder, eating excessive amounts of food with no attempt at weight control. And that's what you have here. Compulsive eaters feel powerless when dealing with food. These individuals tend to be obsessed with food. They use food to escape undesirable feelings, boredom, and depression. They have secretive behavior. They feel guilty. They're in denial. They continue overeating behavior despite the harm that they are doing. Eating disorders seem to be a combination of genetic, neurochemical, psychological development, and sociocultural factors. 9.3% of the U.S. adult population is diabetic. That's about 19,300,000 people. 26% of the U.S. adult population are at risk for diabetes. That's 54 million people. 15.4% of American Indian adults has diabetes. 10% of the African American adults have diabetes. 6.5% of Mexican American adults has diabetes. 5.6% of white adults has diabetes. It is not uncommon for someone with an eating disorder to have a co-occurring disorder as well. 12 to 18% of anorexics abuse tobacco, alcohol, amphetamines, prescription drugs, or over-the-counter substances. 30 to 70% of bulimics abuse tobacco, alcohol, amphetamines, prescription drugs, or over-the-counter substances. I have a picture of Kaylee Cuoco here, and the reason I have a picture of Kaylee Cuoco is because when she started on the Big Bang Theory, she had an addiction, and her addiction was to the nasal spray Afrin. And finally, after 2 or 3 years, she was dating Johnny Galecki, one of the other people on the show, and he pointed out to her that she was using this stuff excessively, and she didn't need to. She was afraid she'd sound snotty. So she was using this stuff, and strangely enough, Afrin, if you use it too much, makes you congested. So she was actually causing the problem. Most eating disorders begin during adolescence and tend to be chronic and affect women more than men. 3% of women suffer from one of the three eating disorders. In high school, 33% of girls and 60% of boys show symptoms of one of the eating disorders. This is Snooki, and I don't remember what Snooki's real name is. This is her in high school. You can see how skinny she is. And this is her when she was on Jersey Shore. And this is her after she got off Jersey Shore. Now, so one of the things that happened, she was anorexic when she was in high school. Then she stopped, and she was one of the more popular people on the show. She's only 4'9". She's also a Peruvian Quichua. She's Quichua. She was adopted into a family she's from Peru, and she was adopted to a family in New Jersey. And that's her now. That's her after the show ended. I don't have any more pictures of her. But she since then everything is back to normal. She's not anorexic anymore. She thought she had to look like this in order to be popular. But of course, she was more popular when she was on the show. Anyway, not important, I guess. One of the frightening statistics dealing with anorexia is the age of onset has dropped from 13 years to 9 years. Third grade girls are starting to diet and starve themselves to look thin. Anorexics seem to have a fear of gaining weight. These individuals tend to have a tendency to perfectionism and a low self-esteem. Death rates for anorexics range from 4 to 20%. There was a big thing on the internet for a while. It's called a thigh gap. If you put your knees together, the idea was that your legs were so small that there was a gap, even with your knees stuck together. Now, if you want to see thigh gaps, There you go. Well, you can't see it there. You can see it there, and you can see it there. Okay. That's supposed to be attractive or not. I don't know. Bulimia nervosa is a disorder characterized by binge eating and the obsessively ridding oneself of food that has been eaten, by vomiting, taking laxatives or diuretics, and excessive exercise. Audrey Hepburn was very slender, and one of the reasons that she was very slender was because she took laxatives. Eventually, she died of colon cancer because of overstimulating her bowels. Bulimia actually means ox hunger, as in hungry enough to eat an ox. When binging, these individuals eat as if they were famished to the point of uncomfortably distending their stomachs. These individuals are notorious for eating and purging in secret. A bulimic will often have secret stashes of forbidden food stashed away throughout their house that they can eat in private and purge quickly. Much of the cause of bulimia in particular and eating disorders in general stems from perceptions of acceptable appearance for females on television. When television was introduced to Fiji, 3% of the women on the island vomited to stay slender. 3 years later, the percentage of vomiters was 15%. Fashion models maintain a body weight 13 to 19% below that of women they are modeling the clothes for. And as you can see, she probably has a thigh gap. She also looks like she's been in a Nazi concentration camp. While binging and purging may occur millions of times a week around the United States, it is not without its negative effects. Dental complications, greater possibility of alcohol abuse, greater possibility of drug abuse, higher rate of depression, greater risk of suicide, stomach acid burns to the esophagus and the throat, loss of tooth enamel due to the acid from the stomach, heart problems, arrhythmias, menstrual problems, electrolyte imbalances. Binge eating disorder has become an international problem. For the first time in the history of humanity, there are as many people in the world who are overweight as those who are underweight. In the United States, where obesity is defined as more than 30 pounds over one's ideal weight, obesity has increased from 15% in 1980 to 33% in 2005. And here's somebody that was overweight, and now this is what she looks like. Binge eating disorder affects 4.6% of the population at large. Binge eating is eating until the individual is uncomfortably full. People tend to be eating in a response to emotional states rather than to true hunger signals. These individuals tend to have frequent episodes of eating large quantities of food, feeling a lack of control where food is concerned, eating rapidly and swallowing food without chewing, eating despite being uncomfortably full, eating when not feeling hungry, eating away from others so that they won't see your volume of intake, feeling disgusted because of the lack of control of food, having a preference for high carbohydrates and foods with high fat content, junk foods. Binge and compulsive eaters do not seem to know how to pace themselves, eating rapidly and in massive amounts until they feel painfully uncomfortable. Such eating may be done to control anxiety. Food seems to have a calming and sedating effect on some people. Adolescents who eat when they are depressed and are twice as likely to suffer from obesity or bulimia. They are also twice as likely to suffer from anorexia. Compulsive overeaters are more likely to suffer from high blood pressure, high cholesterol, circulatory problems, heart disease, type 2 diabetes. Remember, 15 million Americans have type 2 diabetes. Sleep apnea, gallbladder disease, gout, arthritis, 15 to 60% of greater risk of cancer, exhibit high rates of depression, become distressed, and develop a negative body image, allow their self-esteem to suffer badly. Sexual addiction is marked by sexual behavior that the individual has little control over and little choice. This type of behavior might be practiced by young or old, gay or straight, and male or female. The addiction not only includes sexual contact with another individual, but arousal through masturbation, viewing pornography, serial affairs, phone sex, visits to topless bars, visits to strip shows. Sometimes sexual addiction can involve illegal activity, such as prostitution, sexual harassment, sexual abuse, exhibitionism. That's what's going on here. He's showing this lady his naked body, child molestation, rape, and incest. Just recently, an individual, Eric Stilwell, who was running for governor of California, was accused of rape and sexual harassment by 4 different women. And I think he's probably going to pull out of the race. By 2007, there were over 4 million pornographic sites on the internet. 40 million Americans visited these sites regularly. 70% of the visits were during work hours. 10% of the people surfing the porno sites are addicted to online pornography and spend up to 8 hours a day viewing sexual material. Worldwide, the pornography industry clears $57 billion a year. In the United States, the pornographic industry clears $12 billion a year. Much of the pornography is filmed and photographed in the San Fernando Valley outside of Los Angeles. That is, San Fernando Valley is also known as the Valley. You know, Valley Girls, that whole thing. 3 to 6% of the U.S. population are sex addicts. 80% of sex addicts are male. Sexual addiction usually starts in the teen years and then peaks between ages 20 and 40, after which it slowly declines as their testosterone goes down. Sexual addicts seem to suffer from other addictions in conjunction with their sexual problems. The DSM-5 identifies several paraphilias: exhibitionism, fetishism, Freucherism, which is rubbing up against other individuals. Pedophilia, of course, has to do with sexual desire for children. Sexual masochism, where you like people to hurt you. You get sexual gratifications from being hurt. Sexual sadism, where you get sexual gratification from hurting people. Transvestic fetishism, where you enjoy dressing like the opposite sex. And voyeurism. Now, this transvestic fetishism has to do with dressing like the other sex, but not wanting to be the other sex. It's purely from the dressing. You get sexual gratification from putting on the clothes of the opposite sex. And voyeurism is what's going on here. He's watching this lady take her clothes off. Other sexual addictions include love addiction, the desire to fall in love and be in love; relationship addiction, the need to be in a relationship with an individual, may mean maintaining multiple relationships at any one time. Individuals suffering from any sexual addiction maintain little, if any, control over their behavior, despite adverse consequences. The individual will continue to obsess over the behavior to the distraction of everything else. Compulsive sexual behavior is repeated because of the release of the pleasure-inducing neurotransmitters dopamine, enkephalin, and endorphin. Tolerance to these neurotransmitters leads to a need for the addict to spend more and more time in their sexual activity to gain the same mental benefits. Damage can be done to careers, relationships, self-image, and peace of mind. The sexual addiction becomes the driving force in the addict's life. Part of the drive for the addict may be the risk that they are taking to achieve their target behavior. Usually the addict will culminate the behavior through orgasm, though in some cases it may involve exposure or fondling. The trigger behavior is often followed by remorse, guilt, fear of discovery, resolution to stop the behavior. The sexual behavior is often pursued with a sense of desperation, self-loathing, despair, and low self-image. Internet addicts seem to have no control over their need to log on. While the internet didn't really begin until 1993, today 4.5 billion people worldwide out of 7 billion people are connected to the internet. I imagine it's even higher than that with smartphones. 15 to 20% of 1 billion have high-speed connections. In Canada and the United States, 90% of the populations are connected to the internet. The three main uses of the internet are gaming, seeking erotic material, and gambling. The internet is anonymous and expensive, controlled by the user, validating, rewarding, convenient, and escapist. Symptoms of internet addiction include logging on at every chance at home or work. Non-addicts log on an average of 8 hours a week. Addicts may log on 40 plus hours a week. Obsessing about the internet, feeling irritable and anxious when not online. Time online increases to make the individual feel they have had enough. Losing track of time when online. Neglecting responsibilities to be online. Allowing relationships to deteriorate with spouses, co-workers, family, and friends. Posting more messages and downloading more and more data. Eating in front of the monitor. Checking email frequently, more than once a day, and everybody does that now with smartphones anyway. Some internet addicts seek oblivion, wanting to zone out, while others seek frequent or constant interaction. Physical symptoms of internet overuse include blurred vision, chronic lack of sleep, twitching mouse fingers, relationship problems. The list of internet addictions includes cybersexual addiction, computer relationship addiction, internet compulsions, information addiction, and computer games addiction. Computer relationship addiction entails individuals dealing more and more in their online fantasy world. They pull more and more away from their real relationships until they lose them. Eventually, the addict's cyber world replaces and becomes the most important aspect of their life. For online gamers, the game might start offline, and then as they improve, they need the competition of the online games. Like any other online addiction, gamers lose track of time while they are playing. Some gamers will spend every free moment gaming. Men, teenagers, and children play online more than any other groups. Whereas non-addicts will spend 20 to 60 minutes playing a game, a gamer will average 6 hours a day in their games. For the last 60 years, the most frightening non-substance addiction was television addiction. TV addicts may easily spend 6 to 8 hours a day watching. 60% of American homes contain 3 or more televisions. In many American homes, the television is on longer than their lights. The benchmarks for TV addiction: compulsive use making the individual a couch potato, using television to change one's mood, sedative or antidepressant, craving use, loss of control, continued use despite adverse consequences, development of tolerance. The average adolescent watches TV for 1,500 hours a year as compared to 900 hours of school. The shows that an addict watches skews how they see reality and leads them to make poor decisions. Since television shows dysfunction as normal, adolescents have a hard time accepting their own culture as real. Commercials for fast food may lead to compulsive fatty food consumption. News focuses on negative events, leads the individual to skew towards seeing the world as an especially dangerous place. A study in New Zealand showed that the more a child watched television between ages 5 and 15, the less likely they were to graduate from high school or go to college. And well, I'm going to show you. This is New Zealand right here. This is Australia. There are over 260 million cell phone users in the United States. There are over 6 billion cell phone users around the world. Calling and texting takes up a large part of a teenager's day to the exclusion of studying or engaging in face-to-face relationships. And that is it. Okay. Wow. Okay. Next week, we start talking about treatment, I think, next week or something like that. Anyway, we'll see you next week.